welcome to another video. In today's video, it's a bizarre story about an ex-girlfriend. Now, I've actually told the story of all my girlfriends at one point in my autobiography. So I've told the story of this girlfriend. But while I was doing another video series about a year and a half ago, I started to think about like her entire, like everything I knew about her, right? Where I was just kind of in the story that I told previously, I think I just kind of told our relationship, right? And not really like the big picture, which when I started looking at the big picture, it got a little scary. Maybe scary is not the right word for it. It got a little sad, or I don't know. You decide what adjective you would like to use for this story. So, I met this chick when I was 19 years old. I got my first ever speeding ticket. I was in court. And I think I was trying to like get it lowered or something, so the judge maybe wait till the end. And there was a clerk in there, and she was really cute. And I was dressed up pretty nice. I have had long hair since the 80s, so my hair was pretty much, I think it was probably just ponytailed, though I didn't braid it back then. And I had a polo shirt on and polo shorts, a pink polo shirt. I looked presentable. And, I saw her checking me out. She saw me checking her out. So then, after the whole thing was said and done, I was going up to pay my bill, and she was just like, "Oh, I've never seen anybody get it that low and all this and that." And I was like, "Yeah, cool, right?" She comes out of the courthouse and brings a slip of paper that was my driving record, previous to this ticket, that it was a clean I mean, I was 19. I had my license since I was like 17, I think. So 2 years of clean record. Woohoo. Well, she comes out and she's like, oh, you're so lucky, and just like this, all this and that. And I was like, "Hey, you really want to make me feel lucky?" And she's like, "What?" And I go, "Let me take you out." And she's like, "I'm old enough to be your mom." And I was like, "Is that a yes or a no?" And and I had business cards at the time. I was a landscaper. I worked for a company and they gave me business cards, right? So I gave her my business card, which had my company's number on it, right? So that's how I met her, right? And like our first date was freaking crazy, right? Like I was 19, but I had been rolling with a fake ID since I was like 16 or something, like when I got my first one. And so there was this place in Portland called the Red Sea. And it was a reggae bar with absolutely no shit. If you had ID that said you were old enough that had your picture on it, they didn't care. And it was so easy back then, right? So we're in this reggae bar, and she's got brand new rack. And it's just like, that's how she dances. It's just like rubbing the rack on me. It was perfect. And I was super into dancing. Like I'd go out dancing as often as I could, right? And at that time, like I was seeing this other girl, okay? So, and I think she was like, and that's actually part of this story, because so I had another girlfriend at the same time, and other girlfriends that weren't really girlfriends, but it worked into where I had like two girlfriends, like literally had them coming and going out of my apartment. It was crazy. Well, Julie would always show up with like baskets of presents every time she would come over. I mean, it'd be like CDs and fancy honey and fancy jam and food and alcohol, and every single time, right? And we would, we were like, she set up this vacation for us to go on. I was, and my lifestyle was like stay up late, sleep in late, you know. So she takes us to a bed and breakfast. Those poor people. I mean, we literally brought a boom box into these people's house, one of their rooms, and had this music cranked all night, just going at it like rabbits for hours. And when they asked, like when we got there, when we wanted breakfast, I was like, does it have to be in the morning? So I go at like 11:30 or something like that. And since we had rented like the main one, but there was like all these other people. It was the most awkward fucking day ever. Like now, here we are, and all these people have been up for hours, probably hungry, waiting for breakfast, and we're just up there sleeping, right? So this kind of thing. And this was all her idea. You know, I had no idea what a bed and breakfast was at that. I mean, they were brand new, right? And I never would have taken me to there. We should have been in a hotel, right? But so anyway, weird, weird relationship in the beginning, right? Well, then we decided to move in together and start growing weed, right? So we get this little house on 50th and Lincoln, right there in Southeast Portland, and I've got these friends that are like not too far away, and they've been growing weed, and so we start growing weed, and that's pretty much, I'm doing like a little landscaping, and we're growing weed. Well, not long after we move in together, I think what happened was the other girl was Rachel, and she was like, we started going out, I think she was 17 and I was 19. And we had met through this girl that I had been friends with for a couple years, that I met like out boating. Like, so she was with her girlfriend's parents, and then I was hanging out with these people on the houseboat mortgage I lived on. And we were down at like the Rose Festival, all parked. So I met these girls, and we just stayed friends. I actually even went to work for them for a while. And then I got fired, but I stayed friends with not the parents' girls, but this other girl, Lisa, I think her name was. I don't remember what, she was like half Asian, gorgeous, super cool, and ended up dating this other friend of mine. The people are growing, like my friend's wife's brother started dating her, and then like my girl, what was it? Rachel, she was 17, 18 when we were dating. Maybe even, we might have dated for over a year. I don't remember. I was 19 at the time. And she went to college up in Evergreen, and that was pretty much, I actually saw her years later at a bar, and she was anorexic. And she had got over anorexia when I saw her finally. But the whole time we dated, she was anorexic, and that was like the whole, oh boy, that was a lot of work. So, Rachel found out about Julie, went to fucking Mexico, got herpes, came back, blamed the herpes on me. I never had the herpes, but convinced me that I did, and I had given it to her. And even I had to go into this doctor in the mall, and he's like, I don't see anything. So then she blames Julie. It was like this whole thing where she was the one that got herpes down in Mexico, And now she's blaming this whole thing, which just wasn't the truth because we never had herpes. Even years went by and no herpes, right? So Rachel went to Mexico and got herpes. And fortunately for me, I never got it from her because we just didn't have sex that much anymore. So, but then and I tell this all for this moment right here, when Julie found out about Rachel, we were arguing about it, and I was just like, I was probably being like that, like, what am I, and like, oh, you're pissed about Rachel, but like, I don't even know how many other chicks I was, not really dating, but banging at the time as well. So, and she's punching me in the arm, right? And finally, I just get fucking tired of that shit, and bam, I punch her back in the arm. And, that was pretty much the end of her punching me in the arm. It wasn't like I probably didn't even leave a mark, right? So, and that was the end of the fighting with, punching until the end of our relationship. And and that's where it starts to get kind of bizarro world, right? So now, the only thing after all these years that I know about this woman is about her life previous, right? So I met her, she was like 31 or 2, and then I was 19. So the only things I knew is that she had been pregnant, had a baby, and had to give it up at a super young age. I don't remember when, possibly like 14. So that's one thing that I knew about her. And then the other thing I knew about her is that she was in a Christian, this is what she says, in a Christian rock band for 7 years. Okay? And that's literally it, right? Then she had one friend at that time when I met her. One friend and the husband of the friend, so there were, she was her and a couple, whatever, lent Julie the money that got her the boob job that quite honestly got her attention looked at, because her boobs before were, and she wasn't unattractive, but she wasn't like, stunning. She had braces on, so she was like trying to, and she was getting a little, like 32, so she was starting to show her age at 32, and she was doing things like getting boob jobs, braces, and this type of thing. I thought she was, fabulous at the time. So, but that's literally all I knew about her. And now, how did she repay this guy that gave her the money for her boob job? By hooking his wife up with my friends. So I think she went out with like at least one of my friends that I can remember for sure, which was the same guy that hooked up with that friend Lisa of mine. So my friend Dan's wife's brother hooked up with 2 girls through me, which I don't even know if he ever had a girlfriend before that. Not sure. So anyway, that's all I know about her first 31 years, is that she had an underage kid, had to give it up, and she was a Christian rock, and I never once did she ever sing around me. Did I ever hear her sing? Did she ever just start singing? Never. Not one time. So, kind of weird. Okay, so now, progress to a relationship. We're there in this house for a while, and it was like, A lot of people were getting busted for growing weed, and we wanted to get out on some property. So we moved out to Malala into a house that was $1,000 a month. And I think this is like 1991 or two, right? So $1,000 a month is a ton of money. And we moved into this house with the intent on growing weed. And what happened was it was a huge property. The people owned this thing. It was all the way, there was a road and it went back and back and back. And there was two properties. Well, the people on the front were spying on us, right? Because, I just looked like, I was grunge from head to toe. I had the black tattoo work at that point. So, I wasn't like trying to hide the fact because I've always been like, it's the fucking laws, not the weed. And I think I'm being proved right, okay? So, that kind of started crumbling the whole little empire that we had built. And then like somebody got busted close to me, and then like, so there's just like some problems, as there always is, right? Well, she started stripping, and it was about a year prior to when the thing started going wonky, right? And she literally hooked up with some dude, and I don't know to what extent they were hooked up, but she was seeing him at least at the bar, and like this all came out later, right? So what was so freaking crazy about this whole thing was that she was seeing this dude at the same time she was deliberately starting fights with me around my friends that were my friends from before I even met her, okay? And she single-handedly destroyed, I chuckle, destroyed all these great old friendships that I had, okay? Once, Brenda and Rebecca, these two girls that I had been friends with and not dated, we were just friends, right? Friend girls. And there was a buddy, Scott, and we were like all, just friends. And we'd go out and drink and hang out and take acid and do all these different things together for years as teens. Well, now I was mainly hanging out with Brenda, and because she had a boyfriend, Blackie, started a club with that dude. That's a whole nother story I think I've told. So we're going to have a barbecue, right, out at the place. So we've invited Brenda, Rebecca, Brenda's mom, and her brother and boyfriend, and just like all these friends of mine, right? And she starts in on me that day, just making it a miserable day from the minute that I woke up. Punching me, fucking just like crazy shit, right? And it was like, what the fuck is going on, right? And I was fucking fed up, right? And I literally like grabbed her by like right here, just fucking knock this shit off. These people are coming, fucking I want to have a nice day, something like this, right? They showed up at that moment, right? And so all they see is me having her and fucking yelling. They don't see the entire fucking day of her punching on me, yelling at me, just making my fucking day miserable, right? Timing, right? Ruined that whole friendship with those people right then and there, okay? Then, one night, we're driving home, super late at night, not saying a word. She just got off work. I picked her up. We lived like 45 minutes away from where we spent most of our time. So we had these huge fucking drives all the time. Sometimes I was driving back and forth a couple, 2-3 times a day. This was nuts, right? And we're just driving. All of a sudden, she just is like, oh, I gotta shit. I'm like, what the fuck? We're like, 20 minutes away from home. Oh no, go to the fucking, the Sherry's, right? Okay. She goes in there, and she's like, I don't want to go home with you. What the fuck? I've literally no clue what the fuck's going on at this moment, right? Like, we were just driving down the street, nothing going on, no problems. All of a sudden, she's pulling this shit. She calls this fucking girl. This girl drives out to fucking Oregon City from probably Beaverton or something, I would imagine she lived at the time. I'm just guessing. Maybe somewhere around downtown. And I have no fucking clue this whole time. It was the most awkward, bizarre. Like, I'm just trying to go home. Like, let's go home and go to bed. And she's like in this other world, right? And the poor guy at the fucking Sherry is like, we're not there buying anything. We're there like smoking cigarettes, which I smoked for like 5 seconds right around this time of my life because she started smoking and like the stress level, I guess. So yeah, I probably smoked like 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes in that time and hated everyone. So that whole situation was just bizarro world. Now, the reason I tell that situation is because that very girl, about 12 years ago, so that story probably happened in 1991, right? So now it's 2022, maybe 12, 14 years ago. I'm actually remodeling a bar that girl is a bartender at, right? And she's like telling me all these fucking stories about how crazy Julie was and about the bullshit she was putting people through at the stripper environment that she had gone into, right? So she would tell everybody she's done with stripping. Everybody, send a big send off, give her a bunch of money. The strippers would tip her, everybody tip her, okay, bye. And she'd come back the next day or some crazy shit. Like, didn't you just tell everybody you're leaving? And apparently she did this like several times. This is what this girl, I don't remember her name, right? So it's this like kind of craziness. Now, here's where it gets potentially just sad, tragic, right? She, totally another friendship she destroyed was at this guy, this crew I hung out with, Doug and Jonesy and all these people. We were at Incredible Universe. And she starts a fight in the Incredible Universe. And I was just so sick of her starting fights in these weird places that it was like, just go sit in the car. Like, come on, let's just go. Let's just go out and sit in the car. You sit in the car while we're going to go in here and enjoy ourselves. And you can just be fucking psycho. Which at the time, I don't think I really understood, but she's nuts, And I didn't really get that at 19, 20, 21 when we were dating. I don't think I really understood what nuts was because I had lived with nuts my whole childhood. So it's hard to distinguish what's nuts. Now I fucking know nuts, trust me. So, and then at one point, just out of the fucking blue, she goes, well, I called your friends to come to our house and move me out of this house. What? Are you kidding me? Go fucking find your own friends. Well, that ruined that friendship. They showed up. I was like, what the fuck? And that was literally the end of that friendship, which being friends with that person probably wasn't the best life choice. This guy, his literal name was Dirty Doug, right? But that was the end of like 8 or 9 years I knew that person, right? And so I lost all these, it's almost like she systematically went through and intentionally destroyed every friendship. The only friends that I ended up with after that moment that I had before that moment were just a couple friends that I had, like my tattoo artist buddy and his girlfriend, right? So, and I don't know if she tried to ruin that friendship or not. I couldn't tell you, but I think she's still friends with Hillary. to this day, right? Okay, so here's where, and this is the whole reason I'm telling this story right here and now, right? Is she got married to the guy she hooked up with before she destroyed all my friendships, right? Which I would have preferred that she hooked up with the dude, broke up with me, left, and just don't fuck off all my friendships. Yeah? What kind of person does that, right? You know? You're punching me. I mean, that's every fucking time I punched her back, right? Which equal, not even, like, oh, da 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 da. Done. You know? Like, I don't hit people unless they hit me first, okay? So, she hooks up with this dude, gets married to him. He has kids. One of the kids committed suicide. Now, knowing her now and looking at everything I knew about her for her entire life, that becomes hella suspicious. Hella suspicious. Because I could look back at what she was doing to me like she was trying to drive me to commit suicide. I mean, I had to tell her to stop calling my fucking grandmother. Like, leave my fucking grandmother out of this. Like, literally, she was trying to take my life. Like, all my friends, leave me with nobody, and just continue on with this life that I was my life, right? So that dude that hooked up with her, I mean, if what my experience is with Julie, that she's fucking crazy, and now she's around a young, I don't know if I think it was a boy. I think the guy had a boy and a girl. Because years later, I get told all this by Hillary when she was a waitress at a restaurant that was kind of struggling and served really good food, like top-notch food. And they're since out of business, but I was going there as often as I could because the food was fucking awesome and the service was fucking killer. So, you know, that's what I'm all about. And then while I'm there, Hillary's telling me stories about this and that, and I'm like, holy shit, you know? And my first reaction was kind of, and I never thought anything until about a year and a half ago when I started doing this whole Friends and Family series that I did, and I kind of realized, I was like, damn, I never had really thought about it and put it all together and looked at it like she literally just took this whole chunk of my life. You know, friends that I, you know, may or may not still have today if it wasn't for those situations that were 100% her creating, right? Like, I'm guilty of being hangry. You know, I'll get hungry and get angry and all this, but I don't just attack people, right? I kind of have a fucking switch where if I'm getting hit, I just kind of hit back. Right? And the worst I've ever been fucked up as nightclub security was by a chick, okay? So you cannot just say chicks are zero. Now, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I punched her. Yeah, I'm not really happy, but I'm not really like, yeah, it's a good way to make somebody stop punching you is to punch them back, you know? And if somebody's punching you in the arm repeatedly and you punch them back in the arm, is that a crime? I don't really think so. You know, I think that, yeah, the relationship, if it had gone down a road where that shit had happened like constantly, but it didn't. Like that was literally at the beginning, not really at the beginning when we moved in together, right? So we moved in together and and then we had this whole couple more years. And then right at the end was this shit, and it was 100%. And when I look at it, I'm like, she was trying to drive me to kill myself, and she was most likely the reason why that guy's kid, like, that's what I think. I think she was the reason why that guy's kid killed themselves because of things that Julie was doing. Saying, okay? What I experienced from her Like, I barely made it out of our relationship alive. So, and who knows what the truth is behind her kid? Who knows what the truth is? I know nothing of this woman's first 30 years. I met her dad once. He's like a full-blooded Native American. And then her mother, when I asked her about her mother, she would do something like that. So, yeah, I don't really, there's some issues there. Oh, her mother was English and Welsh, or Welsh and Irish. English Welsh, that's one thing. Irish, Native American, that's what she was, okay? And she'd brag about that and how alcohol, and then she'd drink, and then woohoo. She wasn't really an evil drunk, though. Like, she was an evil sober. And so, yeah. Boy, wouldn't that be random if that dude sees this video and then realizes, like, yeah, that was something that Julie was doing to my kid, right? I mean, you hook up with some dude's girlfriend, and that girlfriend doesn't just dump that dude and hook right up, and she's kind of playing the fence, and you're well aware that the chick you're trying to get is with this, you gotta watch out for that shit, man. You gotta watch out for that shit, because if you got kids and you're just trying to get some crazy trim action, well, what's that gonna do to your kids, maybe, right? So, anyway, there's a crazy story for you. There's my autobiography update for who knows how long till I get around to another one. I hope you like and subscribe, and peace.